And he says, he goes, he goes, hello, Howard Finkel. And he shakes both of our hands and he goes, where are you guys coming from this evening? And I'm like, kind of just, blown away that I'm standing here talking to Howard, even that far in the game, again, because Howard is somebody I've always looked up to and emulated with the whole ring announcing and everything. And I tell him, well, Steve says he's from Massachusetts. I said, well, I'm from Rhode Island. And he says, well, wait a minute. You must know about the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I was blown away when he said that. I was literally in shock. John Cena and King Sleazy. If you could say who's the most random crew you could put together for a conversation, that might be it. It doesn't really get any more random than that. But definitely a cool memory though. Very unique. And so yeah, places like that. Good Time Emporium, Wonderland, Dog Tracks, the Legion and Seekonk, some of my favorite places. One of the wrestlers that you would see in 1998, 1999 was Chief Dave Fox. I remember Chief Dave fondly. He was a real nice guy. Wrestling. He was the ring announcer. But MTV was there to film scenes from MTV True Life. What was it called? MTV True Life. I Want to Be a Pro Wrestler or something like that. And it was a documentary, on MTV. And Mick Foley walks in with his Bruce Springsteen, jacket on there and flannel and everything. And I'm like blown away. Mick Foley's just checking out all the merchandise tables. He's buying a couple things, comes and introduces himself to me. And he's like, oh, thank you so much for, giving me a spot at this. I was in the area and Matt called me up and really appreciate it. And Mick ended up signing, unannounced for probably about an hour, maybe just over an hour, and he had a nonstop line. People were going crazy, panicking when they saw him. Like, what? I mean, people were literally that were local were running home or like speeding back to like Swansea or Seekonk and grabbing stuff at home and rushing back to get it signed. It was pretty fun to watch. But that was unreal. Mick Foley, what a nice surprise for everybody. You know what I mean? So that was a cool experience for a ring announcement. And I was like, wow, you got to be kidding. So Mike Spada comes up to me and he's like, Joe, don't change anything. Keep your hair the exact way it is. I don't want you to change a thing. Dr. Tom likes you. We're going to keep you, and we're going to keep you the exact way you are. Your appearance says you are here. Don't change a thing. Brings me in. So, and he's like, talking to a couple other people. I think it was like Larry Zbyszko and I don't know, a few other people. I don't remember now. All of these guys were in the WWF in '93, that very same year. So, to see them there as a kid, I guess I knew it wasn't the WWF, but I perceived it the same way. I thought it was just as good. I was just so excited to be there. I saw some of the WWF stars, and that was my first look at other talents, the independent wrestlers. And I absolutely loved it. I soaked it in. I waited after the show. I waited during intermission to get autographs from her. He would just sign real quick and, hey, yeah. He didn't want to be bothered. And I was kind of disappointed about that. But still got to meet the guy. He went to the Super 8 tournament and ended up being invited back the following year, went to 2002 Super 8 and got to interview all 8 participants that year backstage. Donovan Morgan and Bobby Roode, who of course went on to TNA and WWE fame. Jamie Noble, Matt Stryker, AJ Styles. So the Amazing Red. There were a lot of great talents at that show as well. That show was even better. I mean, it was just from top to bottom, a fantastic show. Kind of more of the same. Anthony Rufo was also a co-owner of that promotion, along with Tommy D, who was the owner of Power League Wrestling. So they kind of combined their efforts, along with some other, backers. I don't remember at this point who it was, but yeah, Rich really hooked it up, and I kind of became Rich's replacement. And so that was 2009. 2010, I did the Hall of Fame again, but I said, you know what? Let's turn it into its own kind of full weekend. And I said, let's tie in a fan fest with it. So 2010, it was 2 days, which that was the only time I used that format because it tends to work better. Either it's hard to explain. Either one full day, where you're doing everything, and maybe the Hall of Fame the night before or something like that. The only time you want to expand it into multiple days, if you're going all out, you're doing like a 3-day weekend. That makes more sense. You can pan it all out. So, we had Adam Baum come in the morning. He signed autographs on day one. We had Ox Baker, just incredible. And then day two, we had Superfly Jimmy Snuka. We had Dangerous Danny Davis. We had Kenny Dykstra. Larry Zbyszko, the living legend. We had Antonio Thomas of the Heartthrobs. We had John Cena Sr. And we had Rick. Forget that day. Howard calls me up at the house and says, Joe, I have a question for you. What are your thoughts on Chief Jay Strongbow? And the way Howard talked in real life is exactly what, how you see him on TV. And I was like, what did you have in mind, Howard? And he said, the Chief is extremely picky in who he works for, but I would think that the Chief should come home to New England and be a part of New England Fan Fest. And I said, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Chief isn't somebody that I had access to bringing in otherwise, because like you said, Chief was very picky in who he worked for. And,